Welcome to the Voice in the Pen podcast, recorded at Hatch Music Studios. Voice in the Pen is cultivating space for songwriters and creatives in Wilmington and surrounding areas. Find Voice in the Pen on Facebook and Instagram. Your support gives a platform for original content and helps nurture Wilmington's creative community. Thanks for listening.
This is episode 23. I'm Emily Burdett. Today we're talking to Mad Gallica about her latest EP release, Into the Vortex, and the life experiences that still influence her songwriting today.
Voice in the...
Hey everybody, we're here today with Mad Gallica.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming out
Thanks,
do
Emily.
the podcast today.
I am so happy to be here. It's a cozy studio. I love the vibes in here.
Yeah, we're at Hatch Music Studios.
Yeah, in the country. It's
Bolivia,
beautiful.
North Carolina, for anyone who doesn't know where we're coming from. So I'm going to start by talking to you a little bit about some of the music you've recently released.
Okay.
And why don't we actually start with Into the Vortex?
Oh, curveball. Okay.
You're like, I was all prepared to talk about, or we can talk about this town if you want to, but we'll talk about both. So what I want to know, and for people listening to know, is how did you come up with the whole concept of that EP?
Oh my gosh, that is like...
It's a broad question.
It's a very broad question with a very long answer. So I'll try to be very concise as I can. It started in when I was in college. I went through a 3-year illness. I actually had to drop out of college. I was bedridden, and the doctors were like, we don't know what it is. It started with mono, but the mono lasted 9 months. And then they were like,
wow,
you're fighting something. Maybe it's autoimmune. We don't know. Here's a bunch of drugs. Here's a bunch of antibiotics. I was just getting sick all the time. So I was lying in bed still for so many months. And with that stillness, I had to kind of explore in my mind to kind of get out of the state that I was in. Mm-hmm. And while I was in the deepest trenches of this illness, I had kind of what I would describe a near-death experience where I was so weak and so ill, and I was lying in bed. I literally felt myself lift out of my body and just feeling very light. And I looked over and I saw this person, this silhouette. And I asked, am I dying? And she said, yes. And I realized at that time I had a choice to stay or to go, what my trajectory was. Mm-hmm. And I decided to stay, thankfully.
Yes.
I think it's always worth it to try to stay, Yeah. And when I made that choice, I started to have all of these crazy spiritual experiences from that. And I entered the vortex, so to speak, my own version of it. Mm-hmm. And I saw, I would go and envision all of these, planets and, this beautiful rose nebula where I felt was my home away from home. And I started to hear all of this music. And I would call it, sonic hallucinations. Because I would be sitting here, plain as day, eyes open, but in this kind of fever, almost like a fever dream. Mm-hmm. And I would hear choirs and orchestras, just as if it was blasting outside of me. I have never experienced anything like it since. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and that's where this music came from. And it's a call to explore the beyond within. Mm-hmm. What that part of my mind was, where this music came from, where any of the music we write comes from. It's kind of a mystery sometimes, isn't it? Yeah. And so it's my call to action to explore that part, that madness, that inner madness, hence the name Mad Gallica, and embrace it.
Nice.
Yeah.
You answered multiple questions in that, I think. I was going to ask you about the Mad Gallica, which I have talked to you a little bit about this before. So, but, for anyone who doesn't know, so it's kind of it makes me think of well, like fever dream, but also like when someone's really, really sick and then they have like hallucinations almost.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy. That's pretty.
It's the madness in ourselves. It's magical.
You, with all that, you then, you said you were hearing like the choirs and all. And so then when you were able to, when you were better, you remembered all that and you were able to, transfer that into your instrument and your voice.
I can only assume that it is similar because I remember hearing it so clearly, but I don't remember writing it down or putting it in my phone. I was well enough to I would have periods throughout the day where I could get up and, eat and all that stuff. It's just my energy level. I was on low battery for 3 years, 10% battery for 3 years.
Wow.
And so I would be able to go to the piano and work some things out. But it was really, I would say, towards the end of that where I started to, it all started to come back. It all started to just have this resurgence. And I feel like it is from all of that time, those 3 years. And of course, continue to write music for this. I've written a song very recently for, Act 3. So it's always still kind of in me and working through me. But yeah.
That's amazing. That's a really cool story.
Thanks.
I definitely haven't had anybody describe the music coming in that way. So that's pretty cool. Your music, to me, listening to Into the Vortex, it does sound theatrical and you could almost transfer it into or translate it into a musical. Is that something that you have thought about ever? Yeah.
Yes. Hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah. There is a whole storyline, and there's different characters, and there's so much lore in all 3 acts, and it would bode very well for a musical someday, and that would 1,000% be a good goal to have.
Yeah, because I listened to it and I'm like, I don't know if she was going for that, but I love musicals, and that just I listen to it and I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to see this acted out.
I would love that.
And I feel like you'd have so much fun with that too.
I would love it
because of your costumes.
And I would say another big goal with that would be to have an animated film, kind of like Fantasia.
Yeah.
That's another goal with that as well. It's just a really massive project. I mean, there's 40 songs, and then I keep getting stuff coming to that's wow, that would fit really well in the story, or it's massive and it's very expensive to create. So I have to do it bite-sized chunks at a time.
Yeah, sure. Well, where did you record all of it?
I recorded it in LA.
Okay.
With Hayden Scott at his studio.
Okay.
We were there for 2 weeks, and I'd recorded a bunch of demos, especially over the pandemic, just with my computer, very simple. But I had layered out all the orchestration that I wanted and all the different parts. And so we just worked for 2 weeks, kind of listening to each part I'd written, getting it into his awesome, amazing software. And then we also arranged it together too, and Hayden added amazing arrangements as well. And it was so cool to see it. It was only 5 songs. We had this goal to do 5 songs from this, and then some other just singles. And we're like, no, we need to now this is a behemoth of what we're trying to do. So we need to really spend all of our time doing this. So yeah, it was recorded in LA at his studio, and then we recorded the orchestra in Prague.
Okay. That's what I was remembering. Yeah. I was like, I think it was Prague, but I didn't want to say the wrong thing. So, is your new single, This Town, is that separate, or is that as part of, that's a separate?
And this is the hard part. Okay. It's there's so many facets, who I am as an artist, as we are. We're all complicated people. We have so many different parts. So, you hear with branding, you got to find that one brand. You have to go down that road.
Right.
And everything has to be branded to that.
Yeah.
I really struggle with that because Mad Gallica is my soul, my interdimensional alien, mad, crazy magician spirit, right? That's the Into the Vortex side. Mm-hmm. But then there's Dylan underneath all of that. And the experiences I have are very personal and more grounded into the human experience of that. And so it's hard to find that middle through line. I'm the same person. They're two parts of who I am. But this town, it's like, oh my God, this is so into the vortex. And then this town, like, what is this? So it's almost just like throwing paint on the wall, seeing what lands, what different soundscapes land. And so I thought it'd be fun to just play around and see what people thought of this sound as well. Because it's very rock opera, pop, a little more pop infused. Yeah. So it's still got that dramatic flair. It's still very piano driven.
For sure.
Theatrical.
That's definitely the dramatic.
Oh yeah, I can't go without.
Sure.
I can't go without that.
Yeah. Well, it's a really cool song. I was listening to it on the way, and we were talking about the video a little bit earlier and how you shot that. So you got your Mini Cooper.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
In the video, and all the instruments thrown in with you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about like what the fun of like filming that video.
Oh, it's so fun.
And how that like concept kind of came to you with like all the instruments and then, driving off.
Well, I'm very much fly by the seat of my pants person. And I was like, it's getting close to release time. I should probably have some visuals.
Yeah.
I should probably do something. And I was like, the character of the song, because I write a lot as it's all based on my own experiences, but personified, exaggerated. Like this town, for instance, it's not about my hometown. It is inspired by how I felt. Years ago, before I moved to California, I felt trapped. I had just left this school, this institution that was like, no, you're never going to make it as an artist. So just be good and play at a church or play classical. Wow. Yeah, there was very anti-creativity, I would say. I felt very trapped. And so this song was birthed out of like wanting to leave that small town mindset. But I love my hometown. I love Wilmington. So like it's an exaggeration. So sorry to go off that little tangent.
That's okay.
So the character of the song is leaving this this small town in the middle of nowhere and wants to pursue her dreams. And so the idea is like just throw in everything that's important to her in a car and just going, like just flying by the seat of her pants and flying down the road on a whim. Yeah. And so the most important things to that character are in myself too. A lot of it are instruments.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's how that idea came about.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's crazy that someone said that to you.
It's one of many.
I'm a big like believer in, we can do anything that we set our minds to.
Yeah.
And that would just propel me further, to be like, watch me do this.
Exactly.
I mean, you've created such a cool brand for yourself, and it's like so unique. And
thank you.
So, I mean, someone saying that is just crazy to me. Like
it is.
Anyway,
it is. Yeah. No, I think we experience, everyone in their own ways experiences what I call candle snuffers, People who they just bloop, see a little flame flickering and bloop, try to snuff it out. But the funny thing is it really like adds fuel to your fire. Like you can't really snuff out someone's flame. It only like, if you're blowing on it, trying to get it out, it's only going to make it bigger. And that's what happens.
Yeah. It's like telling me that I can't do something. I'm like, yeah. I'm going to do it even more now. Like,
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's good to have that though, because that's motivation. Like that's how it works for me anyway. Yeah. And I think some of those people are just like, they see that you are actually going to do it, and they're like, but I want to do that, but I can't do that. So I'm going to tell that person that they can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that does
there's
play
some
a part
underlying
sometimes.
A little bit of that. But well, I also wanted to ask you, because I don't think we've ever talked about this before. I don't think I even know, like as a little girl, like were you like always drawn to music and always like wanting to learn to play an instrument? Like how did that, well, maybe we have talked about it, but we're going to talk about it
again. We'll talk about it again. Yeah. I don't think we've discussed it in depth before. I feel very grateful to come from a musical family. Most people in my family play instruments, and all of them value music tremendously. And so I grew up playing with my family and my parents. My mom writes music and my dad's also a writer. He's a screenwriter. And so we would like go around to like schools around here even growing up and then all over like the Southeast too, like, you know, in North Carolina, and play songs my mom had written. And so I was always like carrying a ukulele or singing harmony in the car with them, or sometimes I'd get on stage and sing. So that was always a big part of my life growing up. And they asked me when I was like, I think 5, I lived on a sailboat for the first like 5 years of my life. Oh, wow. So when we finally moved into a house, like, okay, so now we're going to start music lessons, like, you know, legit music lessons. So pick an instrument, and whatever instrument you pick, you have to stick with it until the end of high school, which is like a lot, I think, actually, to put on a 6-year-old. Like, wow. Oh, this is like a big thing, a lot of pressure here. I didn't think of it that way. Just looking back on it, it's kind of funny. But I was like, oh my God, it's the piano. And I knew with such certainty it was the piano. And I think that's because, like, when you live on a sailboat, that's the last instrument you can have on a little boat. Mm-hmm. And so we, this sweet family donated their piano to us, and it had all these chipped keys. My family still has it. It's like, oh, I love that piano. I wrote so many songs on that piano. And then I started my piano journey, but I never really thought I would take it to the point I've taken it today until probably high school, college, when I decided like I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I still love that, you know, you can see it in the videos I create. Yeah. I have so much fun with it. But music, I was like, yeah, I might as well like major in classical piano. I like playing and might as well. Maybe I'll score films someday. Yeah. And the more I started to do that, the more I realized, oh God, oh no, oh great. I feel it in me. I want to do music full time. I want to be an artist. Which is hard to admit to yourself, isn't it? Did you ever have that happen with you? Like, was it hard to admit to yourself, like, I am an artist, or to own it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I felt like when I was a teenager, it was the only thing that I wanted to do, and was sing in some way and write lyrics. And then when it came time to think about college, it was like, well, what am I going to major in? Because, you know, am I going to be able to be a singer? You know, that's kind of like a really far-fetched, you know, goal. And it's not easy for just anyone. There's so many people out there who want to do it. And so I picked my major, which was audio video production, because I was like, oh, my fallback could be like making music videos, because watching music videos in high school, I always was watching like either CMT, or it was CMT during high school, and just thinking how cool it would be to come up with the visual concepts behind the lyrics. Yeah. So that was like this will be my fallback. And you know, ultimately, years and years later, I guess, now I'm like, music is, again, all I am happy doing. Yeah. So however I can do that and make a living, I'm going to do. Yep. So, yeah.
Can't escape it, can you? It chooses us.
Yeah. And if you try to, then I've found that just any other thing that I've tried to do, I'm just not happy. Yeah. You know, and I feel like that would be similar for you. You know, if I can't imagine you doing anything else.
I can't imagine it either. I don't know what I would do. I mean, I love filmmaking. Yeah. But
anything creative.
We get to do that, anything creative. But we get to do that with music too. You know, we get to. Yeah. Yeah. We wear all the hats, don't we? As musicians, we have to.
Yes. Yeah. Did you created the cover art for This Town?
Yes,
right?
I did. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you draw that with, like, what medium did you use? Like pencil?
And then I did watercolor. Okay. And then I did some outlining and ink, and then like some pen work as well. Sweet. So it was like kind of a whole mix of mediums, I guess. Yeah.
So that's a good example of all the hats that we have to wear, because, you know, like when we're doing all this creating for our singles, it's like not just writing the song and then recording it and then releasing it. It's what kind of, especially with like Spotify, it's like what kind of visual videos can I create for, the background when it's playing in Spotify?
Yeah.
What can I put on there? What's the cover art going to look like? And usually we have to do all that stuff ourselves.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to cost a lot of money to pay for all the people that you have to pay to like get all that done,
Yeah.
But
And that's the thing that I just feel like the lesson I haven't learned yet is when you're budgeting for creating something to always include a marketing budget. And with Enter the Vortex, I just didn't. With this time, it's just the whole age-old flying by the seat of your pants thing. But I feel so grateful to have people who believe in what I'm doing and want to help. And like I have an amazing designer, work with Sarah Barker, who's a patron of mine, and she's helped so much with my design work. And it's great to have that community. And that's what I felt too with Enter the Vortex, the Kickstarter. Just, it was such a community effort to create it. And on one hand, where it'd be great to have like a big label come in and, an unlimited budget, just pay for everything. That would be awesome. But then you miss out on this grassroots connection where everyone is involved. Everyone has ownership, in some way, and knowing that they helped create something.
They're a part of it.
Yeah.
It feels more personal and more of a way to connect with you.
Yeah.
Than just like the big labels putting someone out and then
it would be nice to have that support,
of course,
at some point.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to have both,
Yeah. Speaking of not labels, but you are planning to do a tour at some point.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We've talked about that a little bit. Getting a touring manager and what does that look like? Is that like in the near future?
It'll be next year.
Okay.
And there's a few steps that have to be taken before that. I've been talking with a tour manager who's kind of been guiding me on some of these goalposts, and definitely having something to tour off of is important. And while, yes, I did come out with Enter the Vortex, it's 5 songs and they're very orchestral. So it's really hard to tour with. Now there are, the foundation of these songs is rock. So I do have versions of the songs that are based in rock music. That would be great with a 5 or 4-piece band. But the next phase is releasing a new album to tour off of. So I will be doing another Kickstarter, it seems, early next year. And this next album I'm looking at doing, right now it's 18 songs. I'm paring it down. But right now it's like, I really wish I could have all these 18 songs in, but that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pare it down. And then I have a handful of singles that are very rock based and exciting that I want to also release. And so that's the next phase. I also have a band here in town that I'm playing with that I've done some rehearsing with. And so and then the costuming, that's a whole other thing. So what is our vibe going to be on stage? And recently with my last show I did in New York City, at 54 Below, I collaborated with a great designer, Marina McElray and Ashley McBride. And they helped create this really fun, cool Mad Gallica costume. And so just kind of, there's so much that goes into a tour, right? It's like the visual representation. What is the sound? And also, how much can you afford? Like, can you afford to have a full band on tour? I don't know. But it'll probably be, my goal would be to maybe go on as an opener first, just financially is smarter to do.
Yeah. And I mean, going on tour with somebody else is always, especially if someone who's like a more known, name out there somewhere that you can pair up with is definitely helpful.
Yeah. What about you? Are you thinking about touring? I
would love to tour, but I I think my first or my next step would be to get a band myself. I don't have a band, so I think getting a band together and then rehearsing, like you said, with them on all of my original songs would be the next step before that. But yeah, I would love to do a small, whether it be like a house concert tour.
That's a great
or
option.
That's something that I've thought about. But it's probably not necessarily super close. I don't know. We'll see. I would like to.
Yeah. The sad thing about touring, aside from leaving loved ones behind, are dogs. I'd have to figure out a way that Luna could go on tour with me.
Yeah. I feel like she could.
I think she could. She's small. She's compact.
She's small. She's easy
She's friendly.
Yeah.
I think she'd have fun. She wants to go everywhere with me. Of course. Don't all dogs want to go everywhere with their owners, but yeah, they're people.
Yeah.
I always feel weird saying owners. They're owners. It's like, no, they're family. I was like, that felt weird.
They're moms.
They're moms, exactly.
That's what I say.
Exactly.
That's what I say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aww.
Well, another question I was thinking about asking was about your songwriting. I know you've hosted some or collaborated with our mutual friend, Sophie Amelkin, on her program, Dynamic Voice, and then doing some songwriting workshops with her and kind of instructed songwriting, right? And I'm curious because I know how I approach writing a song these days. And I was curious, like sometimes when I'm writing a song, I think a lot about the structure of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, it has to be, verse, chorus, maybe bridge, maybe not bridge, and then I feel like it's like, is that like, it's good to have that structure, but also it can get you a little stuck too. And I feel like listening to your music, Beautiful Creature, I feel like listening to that, it's not a formulaic structure. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So listening to that, for me, I love that because I don't like it when someone tells you it has to be this way.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like cutting your creativity off, in a way. Or like a song has to be, nowadays for radio, it has to be 2.5 minutes.
Oh God. Yeah.
And so it's like when you're writing and you're like, trying to fit it in this box, it makes it so much harder. Mm-hmm. Do you ever write with those things in your head and try to get away from them, or like,
Yeah.
What is that?
Structure for me always comes later.
Okay.
It always is the last thing I think about. I think one thing that I do teach in the songwriting courses or when I have a student is, for me, first of all, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to write for Rihanna or write for, top 40 or whatever, you're going to be in a box for the most part, structurally. Finding what works best and fitting it in a short time period. But I really don't believe there's a right or a wrong with songwriting. It's whatever impacts people emotionally, gets them excited, like something that they want to replay. And so with my writing, I'm classically trained in piano. And there are certain structures in classical music, that you follow, but you wouldn't, if you were just listening to it, an untrained ear wouldn't really be able to tell the structure that's happening. It's a journey. It's a story. And every song is a story. And how do you want to tell it? What works? What's the best way that you can trigger an emotion or impact someone? Mm-hmm. And so whenever I'm writing, I just let it come out. Stream of consciousness. Usually all my songs start stream of consciousness. Beautiful Creature was all stream of consciousness, and you can hear it in the
yeah.
But in that one, I didn't really mess with the structure that much after it came out. I just kind of played with the lyrics and refined that and the melodies. But structurally, I usually create a song and I'll play around 6 or 7 different structure ideas. Which one works the best? And I'll record them, just even on my phone. And when I'm getting ready, for the day or when I'm driving, I'll just listen through them and just kind of, okay, which one works the best or what am I missing? So that's kind of how I figure out a structure of a song. It's never from the perspective of it has to be a certain way.
Yeah.
It's from the perspective of what hits, what's the greatest emotional impact and how it was the best way to tell the story.
Nice. Yeah. I love that because that's how I want to approach songs. But like I said, I kind of get into my head. I start thinking too much. And then it's like I'm making more work for myself than I should, and it's like, it has to be this way, but it doesn't. And then when, it's really cool when you end up writing a song and not really thinking about length necessarily. And, it turns out to be, I've got like songs that are 5 minutes or songs that are 2.5 minutes. And it's like, again, like don't put yourself in a box and limit yourself to what you want to say.
Yeah.
And, there's sometimes you can write tons of words and sometimes it's shorter and, hopefully makes as much of an impact as something with more words in it.
So true. It's like, what does this song, who is it trying to serve in the world, this song? How can I best serve this song to serve those people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we are going to take a little time to have you do a performance for us.
Okay.
To play maybe one or two of your songs.
I'd be happy to. All right,
Awesome.
let's do it.
Sweet. All right, let's get it set up.
All right. Should I explain the songs I'll be playing or over there?
You can do it over here. You can do it over there. Either
Okay.
way.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you
So-
feel like you want to...
The first song I'm going to play is my new single. And then the second song is a song I haven't released, but this town is meant to be the first song of yet again another concept album with way too many songs on it. And it's the story of a girl who leaves a small town to go pursue her big city dreams in Los Angeles, which is a bit like my story. Although Wilmington isn't a small town, right? It's a fictional town that we're talking about in the song, but
Okay.
and the character arc of the album is she comes back home to her hometown and realizes how beautiful and amazing it really was all along. And it's kind of the character arc, and it's called What Kind of Fool. So those are the two songs I'll be playing.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear a new one.
Thanks. I think I've actually played it at Voice in the Pen at one point. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe
might be
I've already
familiar.
heard it. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Well, sweet. Let's get it set up then.
All right. Let's do it.
Let's move to the keys.
Woohoo.
I was born in a tidal wave, southern town always underwater. Wake up wishing for the last sun rays. Work is done, sleep it off, start over, keeping the faith. I got more to offer, need a new place, or I'll run away. This town's seen better days, so long's been nice to know ya. This town will never change, gonna fight my way, I'm gonna find my way. This town is laid to waste, a dead-end road, dystopia. This town will fade away, in my rearview mirror, gonna find my way to California. Gonna fight my way to California. It's been nice to know you. Always felt like a loaded gun, taking shots, nothing better to do here. Racist monuments still stand tall, grasping on forgotten years. And each day I die a little bit faster in the slow lane, driving to nowhere. This town's
Yay!
What kind of fool would leave a place like this? Chase a tortured dream to prove it's worth the risk. What kind of fool would leave a place like this? A tempting melody beckon me out west. It's true, what kind of fool? I crossed mountains blue, could say I did it to spite you. You said you'd always be here, waiting like some kind of fool. Took a chance, I did my best, fought like hell to pass the test, always searching for the answer somewhere else. Took some time in distant lands to find the truth was in my hands. Always had the power deep inside myself. What kind of fool? What kind of fool? What kind of fool would run away like this? Said no matter where I lived, I'd find success. Don't go. What kind of fool? What kind of fool would leave with one last kiss? As if I had to choose between you and what I thought was best. What kind of fool? But I crossed mountains blue, could say I did it to spite you. I wish you would have stayed here, waiting like some kind of fool. Took a chance, I did my best, fought like hell to pass the test, always searching for the answer somewhere else. Took some time in distant lands to find the truth was in my hands. Always had the power deep inside myself. What kind of fool? What kind of fool? They say the grass is always greener. Well, in this town it really is. They say I got a homesick fever. Well, I know, yeah, I got it then. What kind of fool? Always searching for the answer somewhere else. Took some time in distant lands to find the truth was in my hands. Always had the power deep inside myself. What kind of fool? Some kind of fool.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Voice in the Pen podcast recorded at Hatch Music Studios. You can find our other episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and keep up with our event schedule on social media. Until next time, stay inspired and keep writing.